Morning, everybody. Another day in the shop. Today is going to be a 4-tire inflator project. We did our compressor upgrade. Got everything upgraded on the compressor, 10.5 CFM. That calls really for a 4-tire system. So what we're doing today. We're going to build a 4-tire inflation system. I'm going to show you how I do mine. Take some of these things if you want to build your own, but this is the way I did it. We'll see how it works out. But I'll bring you along as we do this. I did get started a little bit on a few of the small things here. I did start already get the manifold put together. It's just a simple brass 4-way that you can get off Amazon. The Meanland gauge that seems to be, I decided not to do digital. Analog is just fine for me. This is a 60 PSI analog gauge. Didn't want to have to worry about batteries and a digital gauge. So we went analog, got our ball valve and our air coupler down here. Just put all that together with some Teflon tape. So pretty straightforward there. The one thing I did decide to do was use the polyurethane hose. I know a lot of people don't do this. They use the rubber, the hybrids or whatever, but I did decide to use the polyurethane for a couple of reasons. Number one, this will shock everybody, it was free. But the other reason I did it is I wanted to use this style fitting here to put the whole system together. So one of the big debates in putting these together is what type of hose clamps or hose fittings to use on this. There's kind of the three main styles. There are two that you see all the time is the barbs with different types of hose clamps, and there's the traditional screw type hose clamps that you see, and then there's some of the newer pinch type clamps where you put it on, use a set of crimpers, and you crimp the hose fitting on there. It makes a little smaller connection than your screw type. But my concern with those, with the crimp type, is that I've now created a connection that isn't field serviceable unless I carry the crimp tool and extra crimp. The crimp bands, I guess, whatever, crimp clamps, unless you're carrying those with you when you're out on the trail, your hose is now non-serviceable in the field. So if something happened, you got a slit or something, or a kink and a bend, whatever might happen, you have no way of servicing that because you can't undo the clamp and reuse it. And then the other option to that is the screw type clamps, which are field serviceable for sure, but they're a little bulkier, obviously, and a little more finicky, I guess. You got to make sure you get exactly the right size, you get sharp edges hanging out, that kind of thing. But this style, if you can find it, kind of solves both those problems. It's a nice compact fit on here. There's no bulges, there's no sharp edges from hose clamps, and it's completely field serviceable. With 2 wrenches, I can take this apart, redo the fitting, put it back together, and be back on the road again without any special tools, anything that I don't already carry in the Jeep. Some wrenches, a couple of crescent wrenches basically, or a couple of end wrenches. You can take this whole system apart and fix it if something should happen. So that's why I decided to go with these style. Now, one caveat I will give you with these is they come in a couple of different styles. The style that you'll find of this style fitting is not going to work with this polyurethane hose, despite being labeled that way. It's made for polyurethane tubing, stuff that you would run water through, basically, kind of a non-pressurized system. And what you want to look for when you're on, I just got these off Amazon, but there was only one place I could find that had them. So I'm going to take this one apart here and show you what you're looking for. So when you're buying these, the thing you want to look for is the size of this fitting here. It'll be labeled for 1/4-inch tubing, yet there's 2 styles for this. So this barb right here, the style that works with the polyurethane hose is actually labeled as for rubber hose, but it works with this polyurethane. But what you want to look for is this barb diameter right here. The style for the 1/4-inch polyurethane air hose that we're using this barb will be just over a quarter inch. I think it was 0.26 or 0.5255, so just over a quarter inch. And then this internal diameter here was just under 3/8 of an inch. I think it was 0.360 or 365, something like that, which is just under 3/8 of an inch. If you get these that are for the tubing style, this barb will actually be almost 3/8 of an inch. I think it was labeled as 0.340, something like that, 0.360 for the barb. So it's a great big barb, and then the hole here is a little bit more enlarged as well. But that doesn't work with this style tubing because it's too thick. Here's an end that's open. This slides right in, just barely into the end of the hose. And that's what you want. You don't want it can't expand this out any bigger. You would never get that 3/8, nearly 3/8 diameter end into this style hose, nor get the fitting to slide up over it. So that's what you look for. Like I said, I think there was only basically one place I could find it on Amazon, or really anywhere. That was the only one I could find. And like I say, they had two options available. They had one that was labeled polyurethane and one that was labeled rubber. You want the one that is labeled rubber. That's what works for these hoses. The one downside is that in order to get the fitting to fit tight, is this collar is actually a really tight fit over your hose. In fact, it's almost the outside diameter here is almost the same outside diameter of your hose. So it does take a little work to get that collar to fit down over the hose and make it work. I'm going to do one here, probably time lapse it for you, kind of show how I do it, at least so you can kind of see. The number one thing I found in doing this, I already put this one together and kind of experimented a little bit with some ways to get it to go. But number one is cut the end of your hose in kind of a point. I just cut it about a 45, and I'm using a set of cutters, this style cutter, and I just put it in here about a 45-degree angle and cut that off just to a point. Oops, about like that. Okay. Cut that off to a point. Then I also am using a little bit of lithium grease. And what I'm going to do, this will now start up in here fairly easy. Twist it and fight it a little bit, and it'll work its way up in there and get started. But it takes a little bit of work to get it to go the rest of the way. But I did find if you put a little bit of lithium grease right around the edge right there, it'll help twist that up in there. And then it's a matter of just sitting here and twist and hold this with a pair of pliers and just twist and twist, and it'll kind of work its way up in there. Drop the fitting down in, then reverse your process, get that screwed up on there. But you do want to make sure your hose pushes all the way up to the threads before you start putting it together. And then when you tighten it down, you do want to tighten it down, try to close that gap up completely. That one stopped right there, but you do want to, that little gap in there, you want to get it as tight as possible. That way you know you're getting an airtight fitting here. But kind of bring you along as we do this one. Okay, there you go. Got it poked out there. Now we need to cut this back off square. So cut back off square. Get our fitting, our other half of the fitting stuffed up in there. Now we're going to start working this down. And we're just going to reverse the process that we just did. Okay, so by pulling on the hose as I twisted, it does actually start, kind of self-start the threads on there. Then we can just take a couple of wrenches and tighten that up. Yeah, tight enough. Got it there. So I got just a touch of a gap there. We'll see if I can get that tight, just a little bit tighter. Okay, with that one you can see I got it, if it'll focus maybe, I got that gap completely closed on that one, pulled right up solid tight, and that's not coming apart, but it can be serviced in the field if you need to. You can take that fitting back apart, like I say. It does take a little bit of wrestling with it. Takes a little bit of work to feed that hose in there. It is good and tight, but that makes a good tight connection. So the next part is I'm going to sit here and put a bunch of those fittings together, and then I'll show you the next part of the process here. All right, moving right along. Got all the fittings on one side of the hose, and all I did on this to get the hose, I didn't show that part, but I just set this on top of my, kind of up on my hood where I thought it was going to be on the truck, and then just ran the hose down the side and marked the front tire, marked the back tire, and started cutting my hose up. One downside I do have is I've got a 150-inch wheelbase truck and a 90-inch wheelbase Jeep. I want this to work on both of them, so I'm going to have a little extra hose on there for the Jeep, but it'll fit for the truck. That's all I did. I used a 25-foot hose. That left me with about 5 feet or so in the middle there that I'm using to make the riser that'll come down to the front tire, have a riser that goes up to the front tire, and then the back tire will just hook to the tire itself. So I'm going to put all this together. The one bit here, I got just some brass tees. This will be where the front tire is, so it'll just tee together there. And then I've got a short, about 2 foot, 3 foot piece of hose here, and about a 3 foot piece of hose that'll be it'll go from the to that front tire. So I'll have plenty of wiggle room for everything, but just got to put this together. I am using Teflon tape on all my pipe fitting joints, the ones that are pipe threads, to help seal those. On these, when you're putting these fittings together on the hose, you don't need any kind of thread sealant on there, because the airtight portion of it is clamping down on the hose. That's where your airtight fitting comes from there. So you don't need Teflon tape on those threads or anything, but you do want to put them anywhere that you do have pipe thread connections coming together. So I'm going to build out this side. Still got a few more fittings to do for the other side, and then my air chucks have mysteriously disappeared. So I'm still on the hunt for those. They were all together, all these parts as I gathered them. So I'm on the hunt for my air chucks, but finished getting all this put together, and then we'll deal with the air chuck problem in the end. But I'll show you here just kind of putting these fittings together. All right, bring it back in here, show you what we got going. So here's half our manifold. I didn't use any fittings here for the hose at the manifold. I didn't see any reason to add the extra bulk and the extra cost to putting a fitting here. So the hose is just screwed into our four-way here. And I did use the factory ends of the hose to screw in here. I've got the other factory end I'm going to screw in the other side, just because they've got nice strain relief here on them. This is the part that's going to experience the most kind of I don't know, side loads or wear and tear as far as that goes. But the other side will just screw in here and go out the other way. Then I've got looks like about 7 feet. I measured out roughly 7-8 feet to our T-fitting here. T-fitting's got about 3 feet of hose on it. It's more than I need, but it gives me a little extra flexibility without much extra bulk. This will be for the front tire, and then you got about another 10 feet or so going out. It goes to the back tire. Everything all the ends have, again, these fittings on them to go together. And then on the end of these, my air chuck fittings, when they turn up, when we find them, will go on the end here and complete the system. But almost there. Got to go back to fitting these guys back together on the other side of the hose, but I'll go back to that and get that put together, and then we'll kind of show you the finished product. All right, everybody, I'm here in the shop again today. I want to give you a little quick update on the 4-tire inflation system. I'm out here. I got it hooked up to some shop air right now, but I want to show you something that I have going on here, and I think it's going to be kind of a neat little addition to this system. Let me flip you around and show you what I got. All right, so here's the inflator hooked up to some shop air and being carefully modulating my pressure right now, just putting a little bit in at a time because I got 150 pounds of line pressure in my shop hose, or 120, something like that, and my gauge only goes up to 60, so I want to peg my gauge. But on the passenger side rear inflator we have right here, we also now have a coupler. This is the reason we did that. I can now put a small air nozzle. This is a cheap little small air nozzle, easy to keep in the bag with the recovery gear, and it will run off the compressor no problem. This will give you a little bit of ability to blow out some air cleaners or blow some dust off of the inside of the Jeep or yourself or anything like that when it's a little muddy out. But you can see I did try this on the compressor. I just didn't want it running in the background. But there you go. Little air nozzle on the long end of the hose so that we can have some onboard air to just blow out whatever we need to while we're out on the trail. So just wanted to give you that quick little update before we finish the video here. Everything still works fine. Adds just a little bit of bulk. Obviously, you have another coupler here, but no big deal. But anyway, that's a little update to the 4-tire inflator. All right, here we go. Out on the front of the Jeep. Gonna give you a test run. Never did find my air chucks. Don't know where they went, but shockingly, Amazon had them on same day delivery option, and they got here within 2 hours of me ordering it. That's pretty dang impressive by Amazon. Don't know how they do it sometimes, but that's pretty crazy. So here we are about 2 hours after last bit of that. I reordered them, and here we are. So we're going to finish the video. But got this hooked up. Compressor's down here on the ground. You guys can't see it down there, but we got our gauge here. We're hooked to all 4 tires. It's currently reading 38 psi. So I just had these tires put on. I haven't checked the pressure since that was done here on the Jeep. So they obviously overinflated them a little bit. I tend to run mine at about 26 on the Jeep or so. So it's considerably overinflated for what I do. But you can see here, this is how it works. I got my pigtail off my compressor hose coming up here. Typical system. One going to each tire. And what I'm going to do now, I'm actually going to unhook the compressor. We're going to deflate these tires. Well, camera shut off. I don't know how much you got of that, but I set up the NAPA Flate here just in case to going to recap here just in case I missed some of that video that I started. Set up the NAPA Flate here. We dropped everything to 12 psi, hooked it up, did all 4 tires, ran it up to 28 psi. Then I'm going to back it off. I'm going to disconnect my compressor here, and just to make sure everything equalizes, I'm actually backing off to 26 psi, which is where I run them, 26, 28, something like that. But there we go, backed off to 26 in there. So now all 4 tires are equalized. I'm going to let it set for just a second here, make sure they equalize. But there you go. That I hope that timed. I hope that was running. I guess we'll find out here in a minute. But that did take about the same amount of time to do those 4 as my Viair 300 or 400 does to do 1 tire. So this is definitely the way you need to go to take advantage of all the power that's in the in these 10.6 CFM compressors. They push enough air that you definitely want to do 4 at a time. That one just did 4 tires from 12 to 28 in probably about the same time. I'll have to run a side-by-side one day and compare them to see exactly how they do, but that was 12 to 28 psi and about on 4 tires, and the time it takes to do 1 tire from that same amount. So super happy with this. cheap Amazon build. You can do all this with parts off of Amazon if you want, and it works. We just proved it works there. Our NAPA Flate compressor that we did the pressure switch and the convert to the American style couplers works, and the battery cable upgrade that we did and all the electronics upgrade we did to, or eliminating the electronics and upgrading to a simple relay system in that compressor works. Real happy with how this turned out. Hopefully we get some longevity out of it. We won't know till I use it all the time, but hope you guys enjoyed that one, and we'll catch you on the next one.